Hey guys, I want to start this video off by expressing my long overdue thank you for 20,000 subscribers. To be honest, it didn't occur to me why I was getting so many subs since I haven't actively done much uploading only until recently. Then I remembered we're all stuck at home, which means a lot of people playing games, which means a lot of people return to Maple, and then it clicked to me. I was like, oh, there we go. Because I was about around, I think, 18,000 after I quit Maple in fall 2019. And then I just slowly started creeping up in subs. I was like, what the hell is going on? But anyways, time to make a cooking video, or rather it's a baking video today because we're making muffins. I say we because I have a special guest in this video, Rina. She and I have known each other for a while and she paid a visit and stayed at my place for a little over a week. And we had half a mind to make muffins. So if you're wondering whose hands those are, they're not mine. I don't use nail polish. I think a long time ago, like back when I was still a toddler, mom used to make a ton, so she has a cookbook that she took a bunch of recipes from and she makes these amazing espresso muffins. I'll have the recipe and instructions in the description below as usual, but you know, looking at the recipe, you got a lot of standard stuff. Eggs, sugar, brown sugar, butter, milk, flour, you know, the basics for most pastries. Took me a while to figure out exactly why you need salt when it comes to baking. I know you use it for cookies, muffins, and cakes, sometimes even candy. But thanks to some kind folk in the comments, I was able to understand why. The benchmark ingredient for most of our flavor is espresso. Gives a decent coffee flavor to the muffin. Not quite mocha, but pretty subtle, definitely noticeable though. A few other side ingredients like vanilla extract and baking powder adds in a little more flavor and texture to your pastry. Then we have grated coconut and walnuts. I didn't add those into this batch because I'm allergic to tree nuts and we don't have coconut, but if you make this yourself, you can choose to opt out of those since only ingredient we need is espresso. Anything you put into the muffin is kind of superfluous. If you want to add it as garnish, you can. Really quick note, you want to leave the stick of butter on the counter or in some room temperature place for a while before you start the baking because you want it to be sort of melted down a bit. Not liquid butter, as in for popcorn, but you know, you don't want it to be rock hard either since we do have to mix it, so get it on the creamy side. It looks plain on paper, not too much going on, but you know, it's muffins, a very simple recipe. If you feel like it, you can put in blueberries, bananas, maybe some icing if you want to make it a cupcake, what have you. You guys are also going to see all the knickknacks my mother likes to keep around for just such an occasion. So here's what we're going to need in terms of equipment. We got a standard automated mixer, which is going to take care of the hard work for us, really trusty, but I know these things can be expensive. So if you have a hand mixer, that gets the job done quite well too. Alternatively, if you want to do it yourself, if you want to take the, what is it called again? Isn't it a whisk? I think it's called a whisk, yeah. The little thing that, you know, you guys know what I mean, right? The whisk for if you want to mix it yourself, but it's a little harder to do. I think hand mixers, they're pretty cheap on Amazon though. I think you can get one for 30, 20, 40 bucks. To get espresso, we have our own espresso machine. I think you can also just get like a Keurig espresso cup. Don't feel like you need to use all of this fancy stuff. My parents just have them because that's all they ask for on Christmas and their birthdays. Aside from that, measuring cups and spoons, can't bake without those. Some big bowls to mix all your stuff in. A muffin pan or 3, and we're all set. So on the paper, it divides the steps into 3 bowls. Bowl 1, take care of the butter, sugar, and eggs. Bowl 2, the dry ingredients, flour, baking powder, and salt. Bowl 3 are the liquids, so we got our espresso, milk, and vanilla extract. It says to mix bowl 3 and 1 to bowl 2, but to be perfectly honest, there's no real specific order you have to mix these in since they're all going to the same place. I think it says mix them into bowl 2, probably because bowl 2 is the biggest. So let's start with bowl 1. Fire up the mixer and put in the butter, white sugar, and brown sugar together, then add in the 2 eggs. Make sure that's mixed real good. It should look almost like frosting. We messed this part up a little bit and forgot to put in the eggs, so we had to end up digging all of the stuff out of the mixer, putting it back in, and then adding the eggs in. But start by rendering the butter, then add in the sugars, and while it's mixing, crack in the eggs one at a time. Make sure to scrape off the sides because you want the consistency to stay, well, consistent. Sometimes with these machines, they don't really, they kind of leave a lot of stuff on the sides of the mixing bowls, so you need a little manual mixing on your own. Bowl number 2 is the flour, baking powder, and salt. I recommend naturally mixing this by hand just to sift through it nice and evenly. We'll put these in the main bowl later. A lot of these steps are really simple, just not as much prep work required for muffins, so much as kneading a bunch of stuff. Now that we have bowl 1 and 2 ready, I suggest this is when you start heating up the oven. Get it set to 350 Celsius, or if you want, you can get it heated up right at the start, depends on if you want to save electricity. Bowl 3 will have all of our liquids, so let's grab our milk, vanilla extract, and espresso. Take a spoon or something, mix them all together until the color looks like a coffee with milk and sugar. It says to put in half a cup of espresso, but for this recipe I used decaf, depends on how much caffeine you want in the muffins. Taste doesn't change too much, I don't think. Once you get all 3 bowls ready and waiting to go, let's start mixing them all up. The order doesn't matter, just put all of them in and get the mixer running. Be extremely thorough with your mixing. I run into this issue a lot when I sometimes get like a bad muffin or something, and one just is glumpier and the other is a little lighter and not as flavorful. Those of you who bake a lot, you probably know what I mean. If you don't mix them well, then it's just not a good time. Here's where you also can add in any additional toppings you want. So if you want to add chocolate chips, raisins, walnuts, coconut flakes, what have you, feel free. We decided to keep it plain, just to focus more on the espresso flavor. If anything, I would actually avoid adding things that could take away from the flavor, so maybe chocolate chips is not a good idea. Then the muffin making part begins. Please don't make fun of me for my lousy handiwork, it's my first time baking in a while. Unless you have the muffin cupcake wrapper thingamadoohickeys, which we do, I just chose not to use it. Grease your muffin pan, any cooking spray works fine. Try to get plain though, we only had olive oil, so we had no choice. Evenly distribute the batter into each spot, you don't want it to overflow like I did initially, because my lack of brain cells forgot that when things bake, they expand and rise. So fill it up to a reasonable size, also depends on how big your muffin pan is, and how big you want the muffins to be in terms of the mushroom cap part of it. After you're done with that, you want to add some garnish on top, feel free to do so. Then just slide the pan into the oven, bake for 25-30 minutes, and then we're done. They came out looking a little sloppy, but they tasted great. Pretty proud of how well it worked out, given it was the first time in a long time we had these muffins. Although Rina did most of the work, since she's a lot better at handling baking than I am, so shoutouts to her. If you guys make this recipe, feel free to send me screenshots in my Discord server of it or something. That'd be awesome to see. But I hope you enjoyed this baking video. Thank you again for 20k subs. I know a lot of you are subbed for the maple content, and I'm sorry, I won't be making any more in the future, but I hope you're cool with the content I'm posting now. Once again, recipe and instructions are in the description below, but thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon in the next video. Take care.